item number 2 on the day, the disc drill. We've been getting calls on this for an extended period of time. And it's interesting because we've gone through quite a process on this development, as Clint knows. We started this 5 years ago. We had our first prototypes the spring of 2009. We imported a couple of openers. We had some competitive models locally. We had some of our own ideas. We had some double disc openers. We put it on a plot drill. We ran it in the spring of 2009. We messed around with it the fall of 2009. We had the plot drill down to Texas twice. 3 years ago, we had a 40-foot model we ran. Got caught up in some wet, so it was hard to get a lot of acres on it. It's been quite an evolution. We did 4 last year. We had a couple in Australia, 1 in Kazakhstan, 1 here. This year we've got 10 in the field, and it's been quite an evolution. But we're in the air seeding business. We felt we were missing some market because we didn't have a disc drill, you know. And I know I was one that when we first started this, you know, we kind of thought that there's a manufacturer out there that sold, you know, hundreds if not thousands of disc drills. And, you know, my thought was, you know, maybe we should just do a me too. If we can get a percentage of their market, you know, maybe because we produce here, we can compete with them, and we can get some market out there, and that'll be good for us. But our sales and marketing guys didn't like that. Our R&D guys didn't like that. They wanted to do something that was Morris. So that's what we did. And joining me today is Clint Shepard. Clint and his wife Michelle live here in Yorkton. Clint's our Assistant Director of Research and Development. He's been in charge of our contour, was the engineer in charge of the contour, and has also taken on the RAZR as well. So Clint, you know, there's other disc drills out there. We tried a bunch of different openers. What makes ours unique?
No, that's right, Don. We kind of, through the evolution of this whole project, like Don mentioned, we actually started with all these different competitive openers, and pretty quickly realized that although everybody does a few things well, no one actually did, you know, the complete job that we were looking for. This opener is a lot different. We did actually do a lot of development work on incorporating a walking beam design into it. It also uses a parallel linkage. The parallel linkage component is mainly there for the range of travel and consistent downforce. But the walking beam is really what makes this thing tick. It actually helps to transfer load from the down pressure from the cylinder always onto that disc plate. So what you get with that is at higher speeds, tough working conditions, you get that weight transfer on the blade that ensures that you're always cutting, which is a critical part of the disc opener system.
And I think, you know, for a lot of our dealers here, they'll be familiar with disc drills. And one of the biggest issues with a disc is it wants to ride out of the ground. As you're moving forward, it wants to come out. So as a result, most manufacturers put a lot of weight in their frame, put some kind of device to get that frame down pressure onto the disc to keep it into the ground. That causes some issues, and you're pulling a lot of weight for one thing, lots of horsepower, can cause a lot of hairpinning where the residue will go into the furrow rather than slicing through it. The great thing about the walking beam design is that when that disc wants to ride out of the ground, it's not allowed to because the packer wheel's holding it in place. Okay, it wants to come out, the packer wheel's not going to let it. So it really is a good, slick system.
Yeah, and along with that, some of the features we found, and actually from a lot of feedback from testing with growers, came from some of these incorporations that we used were spoked gauge wheels, which has been a huge thing for us in the past few years. We've had a lot of moist conditions, really poor seeding conditions with wet soils and a lot of sloughs. And that spoked tire actually helps a ton. It helps clear a lot of mud that would normally build up between the disc plate and the gauge wheel itself. With those windows opening and constantly turning, it allows you to get into conditions that you normally wouldn't seed into. Along with that, obviously carbide scrapers on everything. Wear is always a concern with disc openers. With the 20.5-inch blade, boron steel blade and the carbide, we've seen excellent results in the field, lots of acres around the world. The dual rib packer tire in the back, we actually initially started testing different tires and found that this was the best all-around system out there. You get not only positive closing, but also some flotation from that packer tire if you do get into soft, wet conditions. So the one nice thing with this walking beam is you can dial in your packer pressure simply by dialing your hydraulic pressure up and down, and that allows you to close that furrow even in the toughest conditions, which is critical with these machines. If you don't close the furrow, you're going to have issues with germination.
And that has been an issue with disc openers. There's no doubt about it. The one that sells the most of them out there right now is, you know, when you talk to a customer, you go, so how do you like that disc drill? Well, it's okay, but it's really the only one out there. But one of the biggest things is that trying to get that furrow to close. I know Mike Dalside's with us today. He's our international sales manager, and he was running some side-by-side tests in Kazakhstan. And on one side, they were having a heavy harrow after the disc drill to get the furrow closed up. And in our case, we didn't have to. Same field, same day, same time. So it gives you an idea of, with that packer system, it does close the furrow.
Yeah, exactly. And along with that, obviously, our accumulator hydraulic system, which reduces your hydraulic flow requirements when you're operating in the field. You set your pressure at the front of the drill, you charge it, run back and forth in the field, and you're only lifting and lowering at the end, not running oil the whole time. Yeah, just some excellent results as far as following the ground. You see this thing go through any terrain or water runs or anything else, and it walks right through. You're not held up by the opener trying to bounce over top of obstacles. And also with that walking pivot on there, it actually allows you to travel a little higher speeds, like I mentioned before, because you have that constant weight transfer onto the blade. So when a normal disc opener on a single swing arm would start to ride out, the force has just become too much to hold it in. This one's actually biting in and holding itself down to cut the trash and getting it furrow more properly.
So it's all about the opener, Clint. Size-wise, though, we're running 40, 50, and 60 feet, and spacing-wise?
Yeah, that's correct. We'll have 7.5, 10-inch, and 15-inch spacing. We're looking also at inter-row fertilizer placement for the 10-inch and 15-inch units. And what that'll basically encompass is there will be a complete rear-mounted bar that actually fits on, and it actually completely bolts on and has its own separate hinge system. And acts as an extra frame support and also carries those fertilizer coulters. The fertilizer coulter system will be based on the identical opener to the seed. It just means less complication for the end user. He's got one opener system to understand and set. You're not playing with multiple settings on the machine where you go in the seed.
And actually the one that we're going to show in the field out here does have the inter-row openers on it. So.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, the frame, I guess, also just to mention quickly, is 4x6, 3/8 ball tube, built very sturdy. Obviously, with the higher operating speeds and tighter spacings, you're going to have more draft on these units. So we've had excellent results for durability on these machines as well. Good.
Thanks, Clint. So market-wise, there's some real good opportunities in Australia. There's real good opportunities in Russia and Kazakhstan. And what actually has surprised me is the amount of demand we've had here in North America as well. Certainly, when you get into North Dakota, I should say, eastern part, probably eastern 3/4 of North Dakota is predominantly disc drills. But now we're into Canada, and it's amazing how many calls we're getting on it up here as well, which is okay. Thanks, Clint.
Thanks, everyone.
Well,